Hey guys, we are going to do a fun doodle owl, and I'll show you some of my doodles while I was working this one out. Let's get started. Good morning and welcome to Deliberately Creative. Oh, and it might be afternoon or evening where you are, so hello wherever you are at whatever time you are. I'm Stephanie from Deliberately Creative, and I'm here with some owl doodling. I'm kind of hooked on owls. See, my little logo is an owl. I'm drinking my cup out of an owl. My cup of coffee out of an owl. Yeah, so the tin even has a little, well, it's a raptor-y type of bird, but I'll be using some Arteza colored pencils later in the show. But I just wanted to show, this is what I'm pulling my colored pencils out of, and I just put them into a cup, already pre-sharpened to make it easy to use. So there we go. So people said they missed my intro. Oh no. Oh, I didn't hit the intro. Sorry about that, guys. I wanted to get into this one really quick. Okay. See, my brain is a puddle today. Do you want the intro? I can go back and play it. So, I did this cute little owl up for my Tangy videos. It is a real-time 1-minute doodle draw, really fast, how to draw this little guy. I'm going to slow it down a little bit here today. We might take 2 minutes or so to draw it, but this was the actual one that I drew in that video, and then I colored it afterwards. It takes a little longer to color than it does to draw. So I'm going to set that off to the side. Yes, my cup has an owl too. Look at that. Okay, I'll take a slurp. I'm just using a Zebra Sensations technical drawing pen this time. It is the 01. And it is acid-free, archival, water-resistant, and fade-proof. So I like these. You can actually draw with them, do your watercolor over the top, and they work just fine. If you use the actual Arteza Inconic pens, if you're going to do any watercolor, you do it first and then do this. But we're not doing any watercolor in this one, so I don't know why I'm even talking about that. Silly me. So, I wanted to show you here, I've been doodling a lot. I started out, this was the first one that I tried. I was like, yeah, okay, the idea is there. It's kind of okay. And then I went to here and to here, and then I got to there, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a design I like. So now, then I just drew out the size of card. So this is an ATC card. So I just drew myself some boxes. I find it easier to draw sometimes that's a singular thing if I have a box around it that I'm putting it into. So good morning, guys. Welcome, welcome. I'm glad that I can make people happy and give them a reason to smile and to laugh. If you are not interested in doing the actual drawing, I do have these 3 little guys. I blew them up and put them onto a coloring sheet. You can also use this as a tracing pattern, and you can trace individual ones. If you want them smaller, when you go to print, go to your advanced settings and go to the size, and then do it like at 80% or 50%. It will shrink them down. If you want it bigger, you're going to have to cut them out and then enlarge or make them smaller on a copy machine or on your printer if you've got a scanner. But please don't go selling any of my designs that I've drawn up and done this way. They're not for resale without a license. So, but you're more than welcome to make copies of them for yourself, to resize them. And if you draw your own, it's your own drawing. Just say that it was inspired by me, if you have a chance. That would be awesome. And if you want to link to this video and show people how to do that, go right ahead. Or link to my Tangy. You know, there's that too. All right. And if anybody's interested in the Tangy video, I will pop it right there. All right. And the, oh yes, and the traceables and patterns. We'll get that one in there too. Copy. Sorry, I'm taking a lot of time getting into the actual drawing this morning. But it's not going to be a very long drawing process. So we'll set that over to the side. And yes, the little owl is my logo. This little doodle owl. So there we go. Now, go ahead and set that over there. Out of my way. I'm just going to go in straight with my pen. If you do not feel comfortable going straight with your pen, you don't have to. Grab a pencil. Just draw lightly. It's the reason why I'm not going to use a pencil is it's very difficult for you guys to see the pencil lines. So there we go. Oh my goodness, it's snowing in Montana. Wow. All right, so I am going to fit this little guy on here, and I'm not going to use the pen to trace around my moon. That's a little bit big. Let's see. Well, maybe it isn't. Okay, so this is a lid to a spray, nonstick spray. There we go. Lid to a nonstick spray. I am going to use my pencil. I am going to have my moon hanging partway off. Just to give me... You can't hardly see that. There, you can. Just to give me the idea of where my moon is, so I can go in. Telling somebody to try to not have snow is really, really interesting, guys. I don't have snow. We were 85 or 86 degrees yesterday in the Pacific Northwest. Although today it's only supposed to be in the 70s, and we're supposed to be heading down to the 60s and getting rain again, which doesn't bother me at all. My studio gets really, really warm. I'm going to the close-up. There we go. So now you can kind of see where that circle is. Find things that help you out. You don't have to draw a perfect circle. But now, all right. I am looking at this owl, and I want him to overlap my moon a little bit. So I'm going to say that the top of his head is up here. This is done in a really, really interesting way because I kind of do this curve with a bit of a point on each end. The curve goes like this, and then it curves in. You've already got most of his face. The hardest part right there. Then I go ahead and put circles that are tucked up underneath. Just like that. And then coming across, I do the same thing. Something I find really fascinating about owls is their eyeballs don't move. And that's the reason why they have to be able to turn their head almost 360. Well, it's not 360. It's like, 300 degrees or something like that. But then, after we've done those circles on the outside, we're going to do a funky, almost letter W outline of the eyeball area or the eye cup area, the beak, and around the other eye. See how cute that is? Now I'm going to come in here and just below his little chin, I say that's his chin, I'm going to swing a line out and down. And that's the front of his wing. And then I'm not going all the way up here. See how I came down a little bit before starting my line. I dropped down about a centimeter, maybe a centimeter and a half. Then we're going to go and do his chest. And I say that that's, if we look at his little circle right here, I say that's about the halfway mark between the chin bump and the bottom of his eye. This is where his chest is going to be. Now, before I go too far, before I put the other wing in, I want to put the branch in that he's sitting on. So it's coming from the outside edge, and it's going to get narrow and maybe go off the edge a little bit and then come back. This is just giving me a place for him to sit. And you know, it doesn't matter if my toes are crossing that line. I could have put his toes in first. I should have put his toes in first. See, those are things you think about afterwards. But that's okay, because we can shadow and we can make his toes just fit right in there. And they're just kind of oval shapes. See? I'm not worried about doing, you know, overdrawing or not making it perfect. It's okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and start down, probably about the same as the other wing, but out a little bit so that he's got his wing reaching out just a little, and it's going to come down, poke below his branch, and then come up and touch his body. We're just doing that because it's going to make him look like he's in his environment. He has a superhero mask, absolutely. And then his tail, we're just going to do kind of a little rectangular box. Sort of like a little wedge going back. Maybe do another one to give it a little bit of fanciness, I guess. And then his shoulders, we're going to do his little top feathers. Now these would not be big fluffy feathers like this, but this is a doodle and this is making him cute. And so I'm just going all the way across and making it match up to that edge. Boom. If it doesn't match, if it goes over, you can have a feather coming over like that. It's okay. Now this one, this wing here is behind his chest. So his chest is puffed up in front of his wings. So you don't really want to have him have these little feathers crossing over his chest. They're coming down right alongside of his chest. And I'm going to put a couple more just so it looks like he's got little epaulets. There we go. And you know, I kind of flattened out his wing here a little bit. I think I want his wing to be fluffier or more pronounced. So you know what we're going to do? When you have a line that's in the wrong place now, if you repeat by drawing more lines, it looks like it was meant to be that way. And so now I'll do the same thing on this one. I'm just going to have all of the wing feathers coming down towards this point. They don't really have to make sense. This is not an owl that's going to go flying off. It's all part of doodling, right? Maybe I'll go ahead and put a feather, a leaf on that branch right there. And maybe I'll tuck another branch right here. I want something coming down in this space. All part of the doodling process. Doodling is a process. It's one line at a time, and you build on those lines. I look to make this accessible and fun and easy, and don't stress it. Don't stress over it. It's okay. But now I've made myself a coloring sheet, haven't I? I think I'm going to go ahead and put another little tiny circle on the inside and color the pupil. Just because I want to. Color it in with the black pen. This, and I'm drawing on 140-pound Arteza watercolor paper on the smooth side. And it works just fine. And I'm not worried about doing any lines across, making his beak look, a different shape or anything like that. We don't need to. We can grab our colored pencils and start playing. I was asked if we're going to do the background, and we may. I am going to color in the moon, and I am going to color in the moon first. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and take this yellowy, this is the jasmine yellow on the Arteza pencils, and I'm going to get that filled in. Now, colored pencil can take a bit of time if you want to get lovely, smooth, gradients and filled in spaces. Big trick when you're doing your color pencil is that you don't push hard and you don't scribble in hard lines like that unless that's the effect you want. Because no matter what you do now, it's going to be almost impossible to blend that in. But if you go in and you do light and you're working in soft circles and you're moving across in your soft circles, and you see how you get that really smooth. Then if you want more intense color, you give it another layer at slightly different angle. And you can start filling in your paper tooth. There we go. See how I just turned again? And I'll turn again. You do get to a point where your tooth gets so full that you can't do anything. But then you can grab the Colorless Blender. This happens to be a Prismacolor Colorless Blender. You can take that on top of your heavy, heavy layers. This is the last thing you do though, because you're not really going to put a lot more intense color on top of it. But see, you can really smooth that out. And I did this on the bumpy side of my watercolor paper. See how smooth you can get that? So I hope that helps out with what I'm doing here, which is just slowly and methodically, we're going to color it in. This is, we did our doodle, and now it's coloring time. I've had some people that were saying they really don't understand or haven't had much experience taking their colored pencils and layering them. Now, if you only have Crayola color pencils, you have a great set of pencils to work with. Crayolas are awesome. And if you want a lot of color blending with colored pencils, different kinds, early in my channel, I did my doodle gems. They were all colored pencil. Doodle gems at the time, colored pencil and pen doodles. So if you want pen doodling also, I made a lot of doodles that were like the settings for jewelry. And I did the doodle gems with the colored pencils, and we blended and we used different kinds. There were the Crayolas, Prismacolors. I did some of the, what else did I do? Oh yes, I did the Faber-Castell Polychromos. You know, we tried different things and find out what makes you happy and what makes you feel comfortable using. And really and truly, if all you can find are, don't go with I'm not a big fan of rose art. I'm not a big fan of the Artist Loft colored pencils. They tend to be a lot more wax and not as much pigment as the Crayolas. I do have a set of colored pencils from Australia that are called Micador. Those are really fun. I really like those. And those are a student grade or kids grade colored pencil, but they have a lot of pigment, just very similar to the Crayola. Now you notice I'm lightly coloring and I'm going in my little circles and I'm filling this in, going around. I think I want to grab, so that was the jasmine yellow. I'm going to grab no, not the camel brown. Let's see. Let's go with the honey color. I want to go in and lightly put some shadowy crater puddles in. See how we're doing that? Very lightly. It's amazing how much a light hand with a slightly different tone can show up. So anyway, yeah, I have lots of playlists of the Doodle Gems, and you're more than welcome to go and watch. And if you have questions on the Doodle Gems, please, please ask. I am not looking at a picture of the moon. I am just making some cratery spots and trying to make it not look like Swiss cheese. Oh, I'm so glad that the tips are helping. Yeah, there we go. See? Color in lightly. You can give a few harder lines here and there and then work out away from them. What I mean by that is put a line down that's a little bit harder and then softly blend it out and away. And that's like the edge of a crater. Oh, if you're new here, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And go ahead and click that like button and make sure to click the subscribe and the notification bell so that you'll be notified when new videos go up. I am planning this week is going to be live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I will be doing it at this same time, all 3 days. Because I'm finding that this is a good time for me. My brain is partly woken up by now. It's 10:40 in the morning my time. So it's a nice time. And I know that people around in other countries, we're hitting the evening in Great Britain and Europe right now. We're hitting, I think it's the morning, early morning in Australia right now. So we're getting some opportunities for people around the world. Oh, the sound of the pencil on the paper when you're coloring. Yeah, it's a nice sound, isn't it? It's a very relaxing sound. All right. So now I do have that pencil line. Oops, there was some smudge on my eraser. I do have that pencil line right around the outside edge. So I'm just going to lightly clean that off. You don't have to, especially if we end up putting a background in, you don't have to. But do use a soft type eraser, either the soft white erasers or a kneaded eraser to lift your colors up. Which watercolor pencils can I recommend? I do have the Arteza watercolor pencils. They're really nice. I have around here somewhere, I've got some Prismacolor watercolor pencils, and I also have the Derwent Inktense and the Albert Dürer. So I do have those watercolor pencils around. I think I have a set of the Arteza woodless watercolor pencils also. If you guys want a thing where we play with the watercolor pencils and, you know, just have a coloring and doodling time, we can do that. You know, I'm fine with that. So you know what? I don't need my sticker there. I've got my little thing right up there. Oh, and playlists and such are in that iCard right up here for different doodles and drawing. All right, I am going to go ahead and I think I'm going to take this honey color and start putting it in around the actual eyeball, the iris, lightly putting it in to start off with, small circles, just fill it in. There is white paper showing. I am not pressing really hard. Now, when I want to press hard and start getting a, you know, if I want a bit more of a shadow and in the same color on the iris, I can press harder. And you see how we start getting that little shadow on his eye, but the rest of the iris is still more luminous. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back and put harder press right next to his little head. And it looks like his iris is now, his eyes are now tucked underneath of like a hood coming down over his face. Oh, that's great to hear, Joan, that you like the woodless watercolor pencils by Arteza also. Yeah, it's really quite fun to do, you know, to play with all the different kinds of pencils. I think to start off with for his, I think I will take this sort of earth red, and I'm going to go around the eyeballs, that sort of shell around his eyeball. Oh, excellent. It's fun to doodle and have somebody that's coloring or doodling along with you. If you are using my videos as company during this time of being home and not being able to get out and hang out with folks, welcome. I'm using it as my time to hang out with folks. Now, I don't want him to look shiny, and right now I'm putting just, this is a base coat. This is not my, I'm not being heavy with it. I'm going to layer colors over, and this will add to the richness of the color that ends up being our final tones. I'm still working in my small circles, and I am coloring it in just like I would be doing on a color book, right? So if you want to just practice your color pencil skills, find some coloring pages. On my website, all of my drawings from Acrylic April are awesome for doing coloring sheets. Just print them out and print them on cardstock if your printer will take that. And color. Just, you've got ready-made coloring sheets for you. And they're free. All of the patterns that are on my website in the patterns and templates page at this time of May 2020 are free. But I don't necessarily guarantee that forever they will always be free, because things change, websites change, we go through, you know, different times in our lives when, well, you know, I might put them all together in a coloring book. Or I might start selling them as individual coloring sheets, you know? But right now they're free, and that makes me happy. Have you ever used Prismacolor color pencils? Oh my goodness, yes. Prismacolor color pencils were my very first kind of colored pencils that I ever spent my own money on. I'm going to go down and put some of this color down here in his chest. Oh, I didn't put his little feathers in his chest. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just making some little U shapes. They don't have to go all the way across. And actually, if you don't have them going all the way across, you see how it's less cartoony looking? There we go. It's still cartoony, but you know. Have I used these Arteza color pencils before? I have used these Arteza color pencils before. I believe I have a review video. I was using them when I did some coloring in my color book. If anybody's interested, I do have an actual coloring book already made. This is Fun Floral Mandalas. It's on Amazon, and it is 50 designs. All original, drawn by me. The paper is thin. It works fine for colored pencils. I haven't done have I done any coloring in this one? No. I grabbed my actual book that I was coloring in. I had a surprise color with me, and I believe I was working on this one in another color book, in another copy. All right. So now I'm still taking that earth red, and I'm lightly going down. I'm not worried about where the feathers are, but I am working in a curved shape going down. You can move quickly at this stage as long as you're moving with your hand lightly and you're keeping your pencil moving in a lightly circular motion. Hello there. Yeah, the link, I'll go and drop the mandala link in the chat. Hey, Lorianne, nice to see you. So, Miss Amy, if you are interested, and I am not somebody who has put a huge price on my coloring book. There's 50 designs, and the coloring book is only, I think it's either $7.99 or $6.99. I think it's $6.99. So it's really very inexpensive for what you are getting. And if you do buy the color book, would you please put a review on Amazon after you get it? And let me know your honest opinion, what you think. Now, I want to know your honest opinion of what you think of the actual artwork. I will tell you right up front, the paper is slightly heavier than regular printer paper. So it's not super heavy duty paper. But I chose the heaviest paper I could, which wasn't very heavy. So when you find people's coloring books that are made on watercolor paper or super heavy cardstock and they're charging you $15 or $18, it's because those books have been bespoke. They are made to specific standards by the publishers. Mine is a coloring book that is made to get out quickly. So it is a print on demand coloring book. But it's perfectly fine to use your colored pencils, light, super light applications of watercolor pencil with a little bit of controlled water blending. Really works. I'm using the cup here to hold my pencils to keep them from rolling off the table, because I am notorious for knocking my pencils off onto the floor. And then they break on the inside. Now, I haven't had any of these breaking on the inside. This is the cinnamon color, and I'm going to use it for my shadow. I'm still putting the color in the same way, but I'm keeping this color out towards the edges right now. And I'm going to softly blend it down, sort of a gradient, underneath of the edge of these feathers here. That gives me another place to put some shadowy type lines. When you're coloring like this, allow the inner 5-year-old to tell you what to do. My inner 5-year-old was an absolute coloring book fiend. Yes, you could do this with watercolor crayons. You could do this with colored watercolor pencils. You could do it with regular crayons. There's so much you can do. Regular wax crayons are actually just pigment in a much more waxy stick. But there are techniques that you can use to get almost a watercolor or painted effect look with Crayola wax crayons. So you see, I'm allowing this color to build up around the edges and underneath of those feathers, and then softly blending out away. This is giving him some texture in his chest, or her, could be a her. Giving this lovely owl some texture in the chest without drawing any feathers. We're doing light and shadow. Do rotate your pencil. It's almost like automatic sharpening as you're coloring and laying the pencil down. As you rotate your pencil, you end up, let's see if I can show you. See, you'll get a flat edge, but if you rotate, it'll start sharpening it back up again. So I want to go a little bit darker with this, so I'm going to put another layer and a slightly heavier application up here under his head and along this edge right here. Now, I'm keeping that shadow on that edge really narrow though, because he's shaped around. So I think all of us need to only be adults when it's needed to be that we're needed to be an adult. You know? Let's enjoy those carefree, non-judgmental 5-year-old people inside of us. Before we went to kindergarten, right before we went to kindergarten, and we hadn't really had a lot of experience with other people telling us what our art should look like. Although my dad is an artist, and he did give me a lot of hints and tips along the way. My favorite thing when I was a kid, because he had a big drafting table at home, and he was a mechanical illustrator, a draftsman. And so he was working for a company drawing all of the really technical things. But then in his free time, he would paint. And he'd paint with oil and acrylic. But I would would stand for hours when he would be home. I mean, even like 5, 6 years old, I would stand for hours and watch him drawing. How do I sharpen my pencils? I've got a mechanical sharpener. This sharpener is the Sharp Tank, and I try not to sharpen my pencils. I did sharpen them very often. I use my lead down. I get down to the point where it's really blunt. I'm not a professional color pencil artist, but this pencil sharpener has these little ears on top that you squeeze and pull out, and it has little teeth that grab around the barrel of the pencil, and then you can hold this and it doesn't go all over the place, and it pulls the pencil in. It pulls the pencil in to the cutter and keeps a consistent pressure on it. It will get to the point where it will stop and it will just sit there and spin, and that's fine. Yeah, it looks kind of like a little mouse with its ears and its tail, maybe a chinchilla, a little short-eared bunny, all kinds of things that it could be. So now I still have that pencil, and I am putting some of that deeper color around that little hood and out around his little eye mask. And what that's going to do is start making this feel like it comes down in. Yeah, it's a nice sharp point, and as long as you don't... I don't have a lot of breakage with these unless I purposefully break it. With these Arteza pencils, the lead is really nice. It's a little bit harder than actually, it's quite a bit harder than the Prismacolor. It reminds me more of the polychromo type laydown and layering. So that's nice, you know. You can rotate. You don't have to leave your drawing the same direction. I like this cinnamon brown color over that red earth. And then I'm going to softly just feather that edge out. Just as you go away from a hard edge, if you start lightening your pressure, you can get a lovely gradient. You know, that might be a quarantine craft time. Make my little pencil sharpener into a creature that eats pencils. But at least you have a bit more control with it. The electric pencil sharpeners, I tend to not have as much control, and they just sort of go zoop and eat your pencil. All right, let's see. I think that this color is actually going to be my base color now for the big wings and his tail. So I'm going to just quickly lay this in. Now, if you are more worried about how your pencil looks, slow down. You can slow down and lay it in super, super smooth. I'm going to be layering up and getting some texture into his wings, but again, I'm not going hard like that. I'm keeping it soft and building my layers. And remember, this side of the paper is the side that's textured. This was the smooth side. All right. So welcome everybody coming in. I appreciate you being here. I hope that you are staying safe. If you're in a cold place, that you're staying warm. If you're in a warm place, you're staying cool. You know, I want everybody to be comfortable. And that's what I want with these live streams. I want everyone to just feel comfortable to come in and, you know, just curl up with your coloring on your lap, or have a little lap desk, a little tray on your bed. Just be comfy and cozy. Coloring takes time. If you want a quick 1-minute how to draw this in real time, my Tangy video is up for you. Oh, Mark's in the other room. I believe he's drawing or painting. I tend to be that person that likes to be in control of my video shows and things like that. So there you go. If you are interested, like I said, in the 1-minute how to draw, say you came in late here and you want to know how to draw this little guy, you can click on that link, go check out that video. It's only 1 minute, and then you can come back here, you'll have your picture all drawn, and you can start coloring. So Tangy is a really cool new service out there. It's free, totally free, so you can just sign up with your Google email, just like you do for YouTube, because Tangy is a Google company also, and it is Google's response to TikTok in a way, but not, because what it is Tangy is for people who do physical creative things. It's not so much for the the TikTok dance type folks, or so much of the fashion stuff, although they do have a lifestyle category. They're mostly art, DIY. They're getting more gardening. My son actually has a Tangy for gardening. He also has a YouTube channel for doing homestead type gardening at home. So that's pretty cool too. But yeah, so you can definitely get a lot of information in very short, quick bursts. Not everyone does things real time. Many of them are speed videos, but I'm trying to get my following over there as a real-time doodle channel. So I'll do the real-time doodle, then I'll put my colored doodles as the thumbnails so people have an idea of what it looks like when it's all colored. But I'm not doing speed coloring. I'm not a speed coloring. My son's channel is Dark Age Growing. And his channel is growing too. He's got a mail order seed plant company that he just started. And it's Dark Age Growing. So if you do a search for Dark Age Growing, you'll have my son showing up. He's got chickens. Now I just grabbed that honey color again. I want to put some highlight into some of these feathers on his wings. Just because. We're just working it in layers. We're not... We still have not filled the tooth on this paper. It still shows speckles of white. That's okay. So some of those areas where I had left it lighter, I'm just putting some of the honey color in there, give him a little bit of a glow. It is nighttime. He's got the full moon behind him. He really wouldn't have a glow on his front. But maybe the house that he's sitting in their tree in their front yard, maybe the front yard has a yard light that's on. And it's a warm, welcoming light. So he's got a bit of that glowing on his face and his chest. All right. So every once in a while I pause here and I look up to see what the chat's doing. Thank you guys so much. Remember, go ahead and click that subscribe button if you're new, and make sure to turn on your notifications. I think I'm going to try some garnet red as more of a deeper shadow up underneath of these little feathers, and coming down along those, his finger feathers, his flight feathers. We're just building colors. We're just building layers. Color pencil is not the fastest way to color in an image. If I wanted to get through him really fast, I could have used watercolor pencil, put a line of it down and one choop, and washed over it with a brush. I could have just painted him in with plain watercolor, even painting it with gouache. So, you know, you can do this in so many different ways that can be a lot faster. But sometimes we're not going for fast. We're going for fun. We're going for relaxation. And I know that there are people out there, and I'm actually one of them, that can get bored if there isn't enough variety or variation in a design. So when you doodle, you can decide how big your design is. You can decide how long you want to color, and then make your choices on your mediums that you're using. Now my paper here is starting to fill up. The tooth is starting to fill up, and what I mean by that is it's not showing any more of that white, and color is laying down on top of color. And when you get to that point, you have to lighten your pressure. If you don't lighten your pressure, you will start either scraping through your color, or you will start getting it really blobby looking. Part of that is using your materials, using your tools, and learning what they do, though. So I went underneath of those feathers to be a little bit darker. And if you have a really super sharp point on your pencil, you can get into those tiny little spaces and give it just the hint of that color with just a single little line. Okay. There we go. So see, as you're layering your colors, you can get nice, soft flow of your colors. Isn't that nice? That's the garnet red. It's a nice browny red. So this time I did not put this color on the edge of his chest. I'm going behind his chest. I'm filling in his feather that's next to his chest. with some of that super dark. Well, it's not super dark though. It's just being layered up. Layered in. But on a grayscale, you know, this is almost as dark. It's a brighter color, but it's still a dark color. So, there we go. And yeah, thank you, Mary. You know, colorists, people who color in coloring books are still an artist. You are collaborating with the person who drew the art when you add color to it. Did you know that? You're coloring of one of my color pages in a coloring book. I'm the artist that made the drawing. You're the artist who put the color on. If you do a doodle, you're an artist. You know, you are the one that's coming up with the initial design. It's never existed before you did it. You're the artist. And I actually think that people who sew are artists. They are creating something that has never existed before. I am not someone who is stuck on the, you know, craft is utilitarian and art is just for its sake. I think that art is the act of creating something that's not existed before. I might be alone in that idea. I don't think I am. I think there are a lot of people that believe the same way. All right, I'm going to go with this. Now I'm taking this color and I'm going to go back in to his tail, and this is my undercoat for his tail. See what I've done here is when I put in an undercoat, as I'm working my way down and away from the light, each time I go to a darker color on top here, I have taken it and done it as the next layer down. So we're down to his tail now. I'm going to go ahead and put this garnet red down here in his tail. The shadow on his tail is going to be cooler, and this garnet red is a cool red color. It's not as bright as that cinnamon red or cinnamon brown color. See? But I'm going to take this now and just warm his tail up just a smidge and make that shadow. Look at that. Looks totally different than the rest of his body. We're putting that cinnamon in over the red instead of over the yellow. And then I'm going to take, let's see, did I grab the cocoa brown? Cocoa brown. I'm going to roll that in as the darkest shadow. And then I'm going to just very lightly, the bottom edge, where I left that sort of light spot, actually going to color it in with the cocoa brown. Now this is all experimentation. It's all an opportunity to go, ooh, what will happen if I put that color over that one? What will happen if I color in. So I think I want some of this cocoa brown now be my last little shadowy bit here. It is going on top of the other pencil that's really quite full of wax now. Just doing little tiny marks, sort of smudging, shadowing. A little bit more of a shadow right here underneath of that wing and coming up the tummy just a bit. A little more of that shadow in this wing back here. So it's kind of starting to blend in a bit with this. With his tail. Little things like that. You don't have to stress over it. I think up here I'm going to put a little bit of that darker color and have it coming down. That wing is behind. I want it to darken up a bit more. Lightly, lightly. And you see, these don't have too strong of a wax. I mean, you can tell where I'm getting, let's see. Every once in a while you can see it. There. So you can see right down here where the wax has gotten a lot heavier, but up here in the wing, I'm still pretty loose. There we go. All right. I think up here on his face, nah, pumpkin's going to be too bright. Uh-oh. I don't know that we're going to color in with colored pencil on the background. We're already an hour into the show. Oh my goodness. You guys will have to let me know. I think his shoulder feathers here are actually going to be a darker feather. So first off, I'm going to put that shadow of his little head right over the top of his feathers. I want them to be different enough that when you look at them, you go, oh, those are the little feathers on the top of his shoulders. But they're below where his head is. So when his head turns and rotates, his shoulders are getting shaded. Oh, it looks almost like he's wearing a cape, doesn't it? So maybe, and we're going to keep this color like this, I think. And I actually think I'm going to bring that color in on the top of his head. And you're going, whoa, taking that really dark color on top of the head. Yup. It's going to be okay, though. I don't want it to look like it's metal or anything like that, but I do want to give him a bit of highlight in his feathers. So I'm kind of working my way across. I'm going to leave the very tip of that to put a more orangey or yellow color that will probably blend up into these feathers on the top of his head. Look at that. So much fun. So you can get real feathery looking lines in here too. And pulling it down lighter. Okay, so I like this. I like how he's starting to look here. Now, you know, we're going to give right around his eyeball these feathers. We're going to get a bit of a shadow. Now, even though I'm going in these short, tiny strokes, I am making tiny little circles with them. Your hand gets into the motion, and even when you do littler lines, and then make it darker, right up next to that. See how I did that with it staying away from the eyeball just a little bit? Gave it a bit of a highlight, but by putting that dark right in next to his little mask. There we go. It starts giving you dimension. Almost, yeah, you could totally do this coloring it by looking at a real owl. Even though it's on your doodle, you could color it in looking at a photograph of a real owl. That would be a really cool project, I think. I'm so glad that you're finding this relaxing. If you have friends that need to, find somebody new to chill out with, go ahead and share my channel with them. I've been noticing, it's really funny, but even though for the last several months I've been doing drawing and painting, the people coming to my channel still and actually hitting the subscribe button are the ones that came for the acrylic pouring that I'm not even doing anymore. So I hope that if you came for the acrylic pouring, you're staying for the creativity. Yes, he, she, they. He, she, they. It's really interesting. I do see myself defaulting to he, and I don't know why. I don't know why I default to the masculine when I'm making these little things. But it's really hard to tell the gender of an owl. And the only ones that really need to be able to do that are the owl's mates. So I guess we're okay. Oh, look at that. I'm taking that honey color. I'm going to work it in down here and up underneath of those feathery bits. Sniggles. Snort and a giggle. Absolutely. I love sniggles. That's great. All right. So I want to actually maybe... No, I don't want yellow on his wings. Maybe we'll take the camel brown out here on these feathers. Ooh, that's pretty. Not quite so stark. I don't really want it to be stark white. But you can leave a little bit of white, and then it looks like little highlights. My tummy's rumbling. I didn't eat my breakfast before I came in, so I'm going to take a slurp of coffee, guys. Ah, thank you for allowing the break. All right. So now back to the color. I love the show Labyrinth. That was a great show. You blend when you have more pigment pencil on the paper. If you blend like right here on these camel color, that is the camel color, camel brown color, right down here, there's not enough pencil to do any blending. And, you know, so you need a couple, 2 or 3 layers of pencil to do your blending. I could take my Colorless Blender here, and I can go in on the wings down low and blend out. I don't really need to blend the whole thing because a lot of this up here, the pencil got worked into. But if you look here, I'm using the same type of stroke. I'm using a tight circular stroke, but I'm going kind of at an angle to it. You can see the difference between this wing, or this feather and this feather. So now we'll color that in with the Colorless Blender. The Colorless Blender is actually the wax and binder that's in the color pencil. So but once you do that, you have now flattened the tooth of the paper. We've been putting color pencil in, and it's been filling up the tooth. Once you do the Colorless Blender, you've pretty much flattened all the tooth off. So the whole paper is now filled all the way across. And you don't have any texture for the pencil to grab into. So you can go back in with a little bit of let's see here. I have the Signo Uniball UM153 pigment pen. This is a pigment pen. It's not a gel pen. And it works really great for throwing a tiny little highlight or a little bit of detail back on. But see, that's all I'm doing. The same thing. It's just like coloring over if you don't have a Colorless Blender. Let me see. The white in most colored pencil kits is really, really wimpy. So like up here, where I don't really want to use a Colorless Blender and I want to keep some of that white color, I can go back in right over the top of it and color. Say right here, it gives a bit of a dull shine, but it does blend. And actually, that's not too bad there. So I might go ahead and just finish with the white one on that side. So use your white pencil, because the white in the Arteza, the Polychromos, any of them, those whites are wimpy. The only white that I've found that will show up on top of other colors is the Prismacolor white. So keep that in mind. You might want to pick up an open stock Prismacolor white pencil. But so I can blend this. I decided I was done with these little guys. Different colors, but I wanted to keep a little bit of light on it. So there you go. We still have to color the branch. And the leaf. And his wing still needs a little bit more definition. I think I need to, let's go look. I took my pencils out of the lift out trays and just dropped them in here because I like to go through my pencils like this. I know some people that would just totally drive them nuts. I do need, interesting, burnt umber. That was one of the colors I thought that I had brought out and I hadn't. I don't think I need the coyote brown. Ooh, espresso. That might be nice for the branch. See, this is a turmeric yellow. It's a little bit more like an ochre yellow. Grab that. So there's Spanish red and passion fruit red. Lots and lots of reds. Sienna brown. Oh, I know what I'll do. Because I don't really want to put black out here on his wings. I think I am going to grab the Storm Gray. Let's see what color Storm Gray is. Storm Gray is a deep, dark blue-black. See how that's almost a navy, but it's much more desaturated. That's pretty. I think we're going to give him... So because this is a much darker color, I'm pressing fairly firmly. I'm giving him some little bars on his feathers. I just needed something that gave him a little bit more interest down here. More doodling. This is just doodling with the colored pencil to give him some shape. Look at that. And a little bit more. Ah, yeah. And just a little bit more definition, a little more interest. It doesn't take a lot. Doesn't take a lot. And yeah, I'm doing it over the paper. It's only getting what actually sticks. So, you know, I may or may not be able to get much on here. But it's enough to make it look like his wings have a bit of something going on. I can make it a little darker on the upper edge of it and then have it, oh yeah, I like that. It's all experimenting. I haven't done this one this way. I mean, that's all I did for my test for this class. That's what I did. So look how different. Look how different. Same basic doodle. You can get totally different effects. Totally different effects. A little darker where it's sort of underneath the other feather. That's what it is. It's kind of under the feather there and working its way out. That way it looks like these are overlapping each other, but I'm only putting the dark right up against that line and then letting it fade out. Ha! That's pretty. Yeah, it looks very much like a Payne's Gray, but the Payne's Gray in this kit is... I don't think I didn't pull it out. The Payne's Gray in this kit is much more phthalo blue. All right, I need to get the feet put in. Now his feet, I am going to actually use some of that gray on the bottom half of his toes, since we had all those overlapping. Their feet are not orange. They are more brownish in my world. Let's see. Oh, that's the cinnamon. I don't want the cinnamon. Maybe yeah, that's the garnet. See, look at that. And now we are filling that in. He's got his, it's like he's got his toenails. And we've made it so it's not as obvious that I went around and around a couple different times. Look at that. All right, so we need to get some color in on the branch. I am not taking earth red. Let's see, what am I going to take? I think the branch, we want it to just sort of fade into the background. Well, fade underneath of him, but look like it's there. So I'm just going to go in with cocoa brown, and I'm going to do what I told you not to do, which is I'm just going to go right in and I'm pressing hard, but I'm still keeping my pencil lines going in little tight circles. Now, as I'm coming out here, I'm making sure that I'm turning my pencil so I can get a sharpish point, going right up the branch, out towards the leaf. Then I want the cinnamon brown. No, that's too close to his wing color. So we will go in, that's his toe color. Which color? Which color? Espresso? Is that the color I was using? No, espresso is... Wow. Okay, so espresso and cocoa are very similar colors. So that's the cocoa brown. And that's the espresso. The espresso is just a bit darker, but it's the same. It's the same tone. So I want a lighter color on top. Burnt umber. There you go. So look at that. That's the espresso. That's the cocoa, and that's the burnt umber. The burnt umber is a little bit yellowier. I think we're going to go with that in a lighter touch. We're not going to press as hard. But we're going to let it fill up that. There we go. Now we can take a touch of cinnamon brown to warm it up over the top. We're just going to push it over the top, out here on the edge. And I'm not worried if I go outside the lines. Come on, guys, we're coloring. So now I thought I grabbed the green colors out. That's crazy. I dropped my green colors back in the can. So I think I'm going to grab the olive green and lemon and moss. So I'm going to put the lemon in here. This is really bright, pretty much like a cadmium light type color, like that. Then we're going to go with the olive, and you see how we're just going right over the top of that lemon. And you see how it's informing that new color. It's making a new color. We're blending right on the paper. I know this is what a lot of people want to know how to do. Take your lightest color and put it down first in the areas that you want to hold on to. Now I've got that moss. And I'm going to put it right out here. See, just a pretty soft little green. We've got that olive going on right over the lemon. But you can see where the lemon was. It's not being totally obliterated by these darker colors. It's still glowing in underneath. And then the moss. So I did olive, lemon, and moss on these leaves. And I'm just letting the pencils blend each other together. You can always blend using a lighter tone. If you don't want to get that sort of whitish, waxy look from the white pencil, you can use just a lighter tone and press hard. The lighter colors tend to be less opaque. So, see, I can go in and I can blend that and make it have more depth by using a lighter tone of the feathers, but not the lightest tone. See? This isn't the lightest, but I can move the wax around now. I've got so many layers of wax here that this pencil isn't really depositing much in the way of color. It is moving those pieces of wax that are down with their pigment on the paper. Maybe I'll warm him up here too. Maybe? No. I need something that warms up that shadow just a little bit, though. Let's see. I think we did maybe the espresso. The espresso is a little bit warmer. Yeah, a little bit warmer, a little bit darker. Those feathers were looking just a little bit too washed out from the white. So I can take a darker color right over the top of it. That, like I said, the white is really wimpy, so it's not going to affect my pencils if I go over the top of it. It's not going to affect it too much. However, there's a lot of wax here, so you see how smoothly this is going on. There we go. That makes me happier. Doesn't look so washed out. Kind of like a faded postcard or something. You know, it's been sitting out in the window of the shop too long. You don't want that. All right. So now I am going to... So somebody wanted to know what kind of paper I'm using. This is the same paper I've used for the last month and a half. It's the Arteza 140-pound watercolor paper. It's dual-sided, so it has a smooth side and a slightly rough side, and I'm using the smooth side for the paper. It still has a bit of a tooth to it. So, look at that. All right, I want to maybe warm that a little bit in his face, just a little bit. This is the camel brown, but I'm going to leave that white that's out here. I'm going to leave a bit of it. I'm just going to take the camel brown right out here because I just want to warm up that space just a little bit. It's just a little too stark. And you'll notice when things need something else, don't be afraid to try. You remember, this is just paper, a little bit of colored pencil. You're really not in this for too much. You know? So don't feel like you're wasting materials if you end up going, didn't like it. Don't worry about it. You can start over. You can see if you like to draw on the rough side of the paper or the smooth side. Some people really like rough paper. They know it takes a lot longer. Oh yeah, see? Putting that little bit of yellow in here, but leaving the center gave him more shape again. Ha! I really had fun doing this. I hope that you guys enjoyed the process. This is something I would like to do more of. If you are interested in doing more colored pencil, let me know. I don't have any more on the schedule this week, but Wednesday we're here. Let me zoom out. Let's zoom out a little bit. There we go. So Wednesday, we're going to do some loose watercolor and doodle sketching flowers. They may not be roses. We might have daisies. I really like doing tulips, so there's probably going to be some of that. I am really excited. Let's see. Oh, and Friday, we're going to play with putting watercolor down and then doodling on top of it. That'll be fun too. So that'll be Friday this week. I hope that you guys will try this. If you do, make sure that you share on social media with me. Tag @deliberatelycreative and I will come and check it out. You can also share on my Facebook page, Deliberately Creative. Just look for that on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I have my website and all the information for all the materials and supplies and a coupon code that's good on all of the Arteza products is down below in the more information box also, along with the links that I do make a small commission off of. So thank you so much if you make any purchases. I appreciate that. It never changes what you pay. So go out, well, actually stay in, do something creative, take care of yourself. Boy, I got sidetracked. Owen the Owl. That's a lovely name. What do you think, guys? Owen? I like it. I own this owl right now. Oh, that was bad. That was like a dad joke, wasn't it? Remember, do something creative. Take care of yourself so you can take care of those around you. And I hope to see you back here again really soon. Bye-bye, guys.